I have a sort of confession. I used to stare into the void during lectures, convinced that my brain must be broken. The tutor, often people I knew well, was speaking at 200 words a minute. My brain was actually processing at about 800 words a minute, and the spare capacity, well, that went into composing symphonies, pictures in my head, imagining arguments I'd never had, and reliving episodes of Dynasty. That's not laziness. That's actually neurology. Daydreaming is not a bug in the system. It's how we deal with the fact that our brains are desperately underwhelmed by the rate at which information is delivered to us. And that rate is even more challenged if somebody's brain is overdeveloped by gaming on a PlayStation or whatever. And we not only do we can our brains process about 800 words a minute, the peripheral information that we get, the visual information, is staggering. And people say, oh, well, I don't have a visual memory. But in fact, I think almost everyone does have a visual memory. It just hasn't been clearly defined or clearly exploited. But those people who don't have a visual memory, there are tricks as well. Those people who do have a visual memory, a lot of the tricks which are presented in school, like mnemonics, simply don't work. So the result of all this daydreaming is regret and panic, particularly in this sort of period of the year where students are coming up to the exam, to the summer exams, whether they're at school or in university, and this sense usually in April or May that they're wasted at the term or the year, and lectures blur, the handouts multiply, confidence vanishes. And then there's the cruel twist. We've heard everything. Our ears are brilliant. The average person has processed so much information, especially, and I say particularly if they've played video games. But that ability to go from what we've heard and what we know to what we can write, where we can write between 150 to 200 words a minute, and that disparity invites distraction. So whether you're listening to a lecture or trying to write an essay, the urge to daydream is the urge to fill in that gap between what we know or what we've heard and what we can actually disseminate. And this is where the regret creeps in. We know that we were present but not attentive. We remember the room, the smell of somebody's overly adventurous lunch, but not the lecture on constitutional theory. We didn't capture it. And the answer is not to berate ourselves, but to outwit our wandering minds. And the simplest fix is note-taking, not just transcription, but annotation, active engagement. And to that, doodling helps a great deal. I found in the end that drawing pictures of my lecturers, or more recently my students, helps to anchor them in my mind and anchor the things that they say. And research from universities like Harvard, Trump will be delighted, and the University of Plymouth shows that doodling while listening improves recall. It keeps your brains in a state of semi-focus, preventing them from drifting too far. Think of it as sort of tether. My mother, when I was a child, we had a telephone in the kitchen, and my mother used to write things on the wallpaper. And I now write things on a whiteboard, and it really does focus the mind. I don't just write things, I draw as well. And sometimes I draw things which are completely irrelevant, but I then remember things because I remember the act of drawing. A useful technique is the Cornell note-taking system. Divide the page into cues, notes, and a summary. And it forces you to question and condense, not merely record. Another is the two-column method, one side for factual comment, the other for questions or images. I use that routinely in my notebooks. One side is what I've been told, the other side is my ideas. And this replicates what your mind does when it daydreams, but with purpose. For the serious reviser, I would offer you the classic marvel of what I think is now called the memory palace, or the method of Loki. Cicero used it, so did Jesuit priests. Modern memory champions use it, they rely on it. This is how it works. You take a place that you know well, your childhood home, your local cafe, your school building, my office, and you assign pieces of information to familiar spots along a route through it. Now, what I find works quite well for me is I write a note, I pin it in a particular place, and when I think of that place, or when I see that place, I don't even need to read the note, and it all comes back to me. The more bizarre the imagery, the better. Want to remember Freud's structural theory of the psyche? Put the id in the fridge, craving ice cream, the ego in the hallway, juggling keys, and the superego in the upstairs window, tutting like a Victorian aunt. When you need to recall, you mentally walk that route, and all these things pop back into your head. You can use it for case law, chemical equations, philosophical movements, even quotations. You can build an entire city of knowledge if you have places to put it. Why does it work? Because we've evolved to remember places. Our ancestors remembered watering holes, the route back to the camp, the location of the wild boar they never quite caught. We are spatial learners. And this is why I would say that we all have visual memory, because we think in spaces. Memory palaces hijack this instinct, and it's fun too. Imagination is not the opposite of memory, it's the engine of memory. And to make it stick, we need to use spaced retrieval. We need to revisit the palace after an hour, after 24 hours, then a week, then a month. That's something that Aristotle specifically advises. There's a thing called Ebbinghaus forgetting curve, and we need to challenge that. We need to make sure that we've got the habit of work, because memory is about habit, is about developing habits and developing routines and developing familiarity. A genius is not somebody who impulsively does something. It's somebody who puts in the hard work. Mozart worked from dawn till dusk. That's why he was able to produce so much music in such a short period of time. If you're stuck in traffic or you're in the dentist's chair, wander round your palace. Do a dry run. Confidence is competence remembered. So as exams loom and regret stalks your waking hours, remember that your memory isn't broken, it's just undertrained. Note-taking tethers your thoughts. Memory palaces, build them into architecture. Don't just hope that the knowledge will be there. Place it there, room by room, brick by brick, idea by idea. And if you find yourself daydreaming, good, that means your brain is working. Just make sure it's wandering through a palace, not a void.